Okay, greetings and welcome to web music class, Music 1310, or Music 1301, or Music 1311. These are the three web classes that I'm teaching this semester, and I thought it'd be a good idea for me to post something so you get a kind of a feel for what I look like and who I am. And I'd like you to also post some things. What I'd like you to do is I'm going to give you a kind of a feel for what I want you to do. I'm going to give you a little bit of a musical autobiography, and then what I want you to do is kind of post something similar. Now, it doesn't have to be a video. It can be an audio file or a podcast, something of that nature. And I'll have a discussion board for you so that we can all kind of introduce ourselves and understand kind of who we are and what we're about. Obviously, I'm not any spring chicken. This isn't my first rodeo, as they say. I was born in 1949, and I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico during the 1950s. So, and Albuquerque was an interesting place to grow up in the 1950s because it, number one, it was kind of a small town, and it was a very isolated place. It was a long ways from anything. It seemed to me like something was always happening thousands of miles away, and everything that was important, whether it was football or politics or the news, everything that was important that happened to happen thousands of miles away. It's like growing up on the surface of the moon. But also New Mexico has an interesting kind of a culture. It's basically an amalgam of three different cultures. Indigenous Americans, of course, are very plentiful in New Mexico. Hispanics, mainly Creoles, not a lot of mestizos. And then the latecomers, of course, were people like me, Anglos. And so it was a fascinating place to be because it really challenged a lot of our presuppositions about, sort of who we were and what we were about. And so that was a good place to grow up. But I got interested in music in church. I was raised Southern Baptist, and my parents always made me cry when they performed at church, and I think it embarrassed them. But I was really moved, of course, by anything that was in music, and music became an outlet for emotions, I think, to a great extent in my family, because we weren't that demonstrative otherwise. Anyway, when I was 14 or 15 years old, about the time that Kennedy was assassinated, I played in the band. And in junior high school, we had actually a pretty good junior high school band. And the band I played in was really played some challenging literature for a junior high kind of band. And one of the pieces that the band director brought out was Elsa's Procession to the Cathedral. It's by Wagner, 19th century composer who's famous for writing operas that demanded huge orchestras. He was also a bit long-winded, but that's typical of the 19th century. So Wagner's music, just all of a sudden, I'd never heard anything like it before when I was 14 or 15. I couldn't believe it. It was the most wonderful thing, most beautiful thing I had ever heard in my life. And I just had a student write a musical autobiography where he said he surrendered to beauty. And that really reverberated with me. I felt like, wow, surrender to beauty. That's what I did. And I think as musicians, at some point in our lives, we always do that. So that's what I did. I surrendered to the beauty of this music, and I decided to become a musician. And so here I am, 40 years later, 50 years later, still teaching music and teaching these courses that you're enrolled in. So that's kind of my story. It's very brief. Not a lot of detail in there. There's lots of ups and downs. But I'm not going to bore you with the rest of it. And so what I want you to do is tell me your story and post it so that we can all get acquainted and start basically learning to kind of talk to each other and help each other out through the course of the semester. So thanks. I hope you enjoyed watching this, and I look forward to looking at your offerings. Okay, see you online in the web course.